Hello, and you're very welcome to episode 86 of The Fifth Court, a podcast on legal affairs presented by myself, Peter Leonard, barrister and mediator.
And myself, Mark Tottenham, barrister and trust and estate practitioner.
Good to see you, Mark, as always. And you will recall last week we had a bit of a law library legend in the room.
We certainly did.
Urquhart Stewart. Did you enjoy that? Urquhart Stewart, senior counsel, of course.
I really did. I certainly liked his story about building his career in the children's court. That was...
Yeah, it was fantastic, actually.
It was such different times as the whole discussion.
I know. Sure, look, we get very nostalgic when we hear about those lovely times. Things were a little bit more gentle, I think, in those days, weren't they?
But also, I mean, he basically was working for free for a year, pro bono for all of these people. I thought it was very, very interesting.
My reply to that is he was working for only a year for free. Okay. Anyway, I really enjoyed that interview, and I know we got a great response. Well, tonight we're going to kind of go in a different direction, and we're talking to a would-be legal entrepreneur, or maybe she is already a legal entrepreneur. Not would-be. And this is Isabella Hughes, who is a law graduate, and she has set up this app called Simple Probate. And this is to simplify the process of probate from both the executor's point of view and from the solicitor's point of view. Mark, and I know when I talked to you about this, you were getting very excited. I
think it's interesting because, I mean, it's one of these things that you often hear people say that almost as soon as their relative has died, suddenly there's a massive amount of administration involved, including the probate process as well as the funeral and all that kind of thing. And basically the idea of this probate app is to assist both the executor and the solicitor to go through the whole process and to explain things, to make sure that all of the information is collated and kept centrally. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure organised solicitors get this material in, but I think it gives a bit more control to the executor. I think it'll be of interest to probate solicitors.
Great. Okay, well, look, I'm really looking forward to talking to Isabella. But before we get to that, we have 3 cases that you have identified from the Decisis website. And we start with a case about a pregnant woman who received a P45, I think that means cheerio, and brought proceedings to claim unlawful dismissal, or unfair dismissal, I imagine. However, the defendant said that the P45 was issued by way of administrative error. This is the case of Carpets versus Graham O'Sullivan Restaurants Limited, and it's a decision of Ms. Justice Gearty.
Yeah, this is a very funny decision because I think you know this area probably a bit better than I do, but basically I think I'm right in saying that dismissals are almost presumed to be unlawful unless they can be justified.
Yes,
is that a correct
absolutely.
Characterization? What happened here was that a woman who had taken a certain amount of sick leave and maternity leave and she was pregnant received a P45 in the post and assumed that she had been dismissed, and she issued unfair dismissal proceedings. And the defendants said, oh, that was issued as an administrative error. You haven't been dismissed. Basically, so this was dealt with in the circuit court and then appealed to the High Court. But what Ms. Justice Gearty said was, you know, the onus is on the employer to justify the dismissal. And if there hadn't been a dismissal, if this actually wasn't an administrative error, there really should have been a sort of almost a red flag. You know, they should have gone the extra mile to ensure that she was re-engaged or reinstated or whatever the appropriate term is. And so she was quite satisfied that there had been a dismissal and that the plaintiff had been entitled to bring her claim, and awarded her damages of, I think, $66,000.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, very good. So, well, next to a pre-trial application to the Central Criminal Court, where they excluded identification evidence from a murder trial. Now, this was an appeal that was taken to the Court of Appeal, and this is the Director of Public Prosecutions versus McHugh, and it's a decision of Mr. Justice Charlton.
Yeah, so there's a sort of interesting procedural point here, which is that normally, until recently, these kind of issues in relation to identification would happen as voir dires in the course of the main trial. So there'd be a kind of a trial within a trial. There's now a procedure under the Criminal Procedure Act 2021 whereby you make an application to the court before a jury is impanelled. So what happened here was the application was made to exclude this evidence, and the evidence in question was from 2 Gardaí who claimed that they recognised the accused in CCTV footage. And the trial judge held that, I suppose, the usual test, that it was more prejudicial than probative, or that he wasn't satisfied that they recognised the accused. And so that appeal was brought to the Court of Appeal prior to the trial itself. So instead of simply ploughing on with the trial as would have happened, the appeal went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal overturned that decision and said that the issue of whether or not the accused had been recognised by the Gardaí was an issue the jury should have just determined rather than the judge.
Okay, very good. No, very interesting case. Okay, so finally tonight, it's a case of involuntary admission under the Mental Health Acts. And this is where an issue arose as to whether the person was suffering from a mental disorder or, I suppose, not. This is the case of AA versus the clinical director of the Ashland Centre, and it's a High Court decision from Mr. Justice Simons.
Yes, so this basically, when you are admitted involuntarily, I mean, obviously it's a very serious decision to make where somebody is determined to either be a risk to themselves or a risk to other people. And so it's not a decision to be taken lightly. But there is a procedure, obviously, under the Mental Health Act whereby somebody who is a danger to themselves or others can be detained. But they have to be certified by a psychiatrist. And what has happened in a few cases is that the psychiatrist rather treats it as a tick box exercise, effectively uses the language of the Act and says, I'm satisfied that the person is suffering from a mental disorder. Now, my understanding of what happened here was that the psychiatrist had effectively said, yes, I'm satisfied they're suffering from a mental disorder. And what Mr. Justice Simon says was, you need something a bit more than that. You need effectively a clinical note that says, this is the reason upon which I'm determining that there's a mental disorder. Now, I don't know whether that necessarily means that the psychiatrist effectively says, I saw the person threatening somebody, I saw the person assaulting somebody, I was satisfied that they didn't engage with me, or, that kind of thing, whether they made eye contact, the sort of things that you would expect a psychiatrist to record. But there has to be something more than simply saying, yes, I'm satisfied there's a mental disorder. There has to be a proper assessment by the psychiatrist, and the reasons need to be given on the order to detain the person, because otherwise when they seek to appeal it or to challenge it, the court is simply left with a box ticked.
So the court has to understand why the decision was made. Of course, that makes perfect sense. Okay, Mark, thank you for bringing us those three cases. Very interesting. Back shortly with Isabella Hughes.
Silence in the Fifth Court.
All right, it is my great pleasure to welcome to studio Isabella Hughes, who's a sort of a legal entrepreneur. Isabella, am I right in saying that? You've come up with this wonderful app, the Probate app, and we're going to talk about that. But enough of that for the moment, because I've just discovered that you are a boxer.
Yeah, I am. They're a funny mix, boxing and law, but they go together well enough.
Actually, you want to see my practice. But anyway, there you go. Yeah, but anyway, tell us, you're a boxer, a proper boxer.
I am. I'm an amateur boxer. I was in Eindhoven 5 weeks ago. I came home with a bronze medal. So I'm delighted. But I'm off for the summer now and I'll be fighting again in October. So it's given me lots of time to focus on this.
And are you in the Olympics or anything?
No, not at all. No, not at that level. Kelly Harrington is in my weight and sure, Kelly's just phenomenal.
Okay, so okay. And have you got into the ring with Kelly Harrington?
Well, we're in the same club, yeah, we're club mates. Kelly Harrington, Grania Walsh and myself, we're all in the same club, yeah. We have a real little girl gang going.
Okay, and why boxing?
I just loved it. I started it for fitness and I think I'm so competitive that it really suited my nature. And then I kind of just started to gradually get more and more into it. Suddenly, before I knew it, I was punching the head off people in the ring. And then I kept going with it. Did it in college. Did it after college for a full year. When I was in final year, everyone said, are you doing your King's Inns? Are you doing FE1s? I said, no. I said, I'm going boxing. And then after a year of boxing full time, I was like, right, okay, I'll go back and I'll get a job in a law firm and I'll keep boxing on the side. But here I am today.
So you were going to be a professional boxer. This is absolutely fascinating. You were going to, you wanted to go all the way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Katie Taylor style, because Kelly Harrington is still an amateur, I think, isn't she? Yeah, and still in the Olympics. But wow, that was going to be how you earned a living.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Wow, okay. God, that's amazing. That is amazing.
Definitely a stranger route, I think, into law.
Great. And what about sport? Were you, obviously that's the ultimate individual sport. Were you a team sport person at all?
I wasn't really, to be honest. I evented as well, so in horses, which is a kind of a team sport because you're there with a horse, but it is ultimately individual at the end of the day, myself and the horse. But
okay, and that's the dressage and all that stuff.
Dressage, show jumping, and cross country. Yeah,
cross country. Wow. Okay. So that's fascinating. Two kind of very different sports, I would have thought. Okay, enough about that. You're in to talk about this Probate app, but before we get into that, just your legal background, as you said. You decided you studied law in Maynooth, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, I studied law in Maynooth. I originally started off in business and law, and then after first year, I said I'm going straight into pure law. I loved it that much. and I did 4 years of Maynooth. I graduated, did boxing for a full year. And then I went back to work in a law firm part-time as a legal executive with the aim to half box and half study for my King's Inns exams. My cousin, she's a barrister. I was going to follow her down that same route. And then this idea came to me and one of my friends, and we just thought we have to go this way. We can't do that.
You were going to go to the King's Inns.
I was, yeah.
And it was the bar. Okay. Yeah. But you've put that on hold, or is it are you going to go in a completely different direction?
No, it's on hold completely, I think. Yeah, I'm in a completely different direction now.
Okay,
yeah.
So you want to be a businesswoman now.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
All right. So the Probate app. First of all, tell me who's involved in this.
Yeah, so it's myself and my co-founder Oisín and our other co-founder John Noonan. Oisín is our software engineer. He's purely technical. He is a really, really, really intelligent guy. He codes absolutely everything, does all our algorithms, anything technical, you name it, he can do it. John Noonan is our kind of chief of product. He previously worked for Clio. I'm sure you all know Clio.
We've heard of them on this show, all right, yeah. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Well, he
helps pay the bills.
Well, he worked for Clio for 5 years in customer success and product. So he has been absolutely instrumental in building this product out. And then I'm the CEO.
So you're the CEO. Okay. So what is the Probate app? Tell us what it is.
So basically, we realised that there was so much data and so much admin involved in probate, and there was so much back and forth between the client and the solicitor, and there was so much individual little bits of data. So like PPS numbers, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, dates of births and dates of deaths. There were so many little bits of information, and it was taking so long for the solicitor to collate all that information and then also populate their systems and then go on to make the oaths. Never mind, the executor was totally confused by the whole process. They didn't understand what was going on. And they also didn't know how to get this information. Solicitors are hard to get on the phone at the best of times. Never mind, when it's a probate case, they're also even harder to get on the phone. So we've developed this executor checklist that actually brings...
So we're going right back to the beginning of making the will, where you're actually getting the testator to set out all of this information for the solicitor. Is that right?
No. So it's after it's after they've died, okay, and the client has brought the will to whatever solicitor that's going to help them execute the will. They said, here's the will, and the solicitor says, right, okay, go off and find all the PPS numbers of the deceased, go off, find all their addresses, all their email addresses, and there's loads of other things that the executor has to go off and do, and they've no idea how to do it. And they also don't know how to find the information. So we developed an executor checklist. It guides them through the very early stages, from the likes of the funeral, existing pets, insurance, tax, car insurance. We tell them what to do about it, and also what the probate process is. So what's happening as they go through the journey. While they're on the journey and they're understanding the process through really easy to understand little pieces of information, videos, pictures, really little straightforward pieces of information to understand. While they're going about this process, they're also inputting little bits of data that they're finding along the way. So the beneficiary's contact details, the deceased contact details, the house insurance details, the bank accounts, all the assets, and they're putting it all into the system. So once we're getting all that information, we're then populating all of the solicitors' databases. So that way the solicitor can see every single asset, they can see every single PPS number, every single beneficiary detail, all the deceased details, and they can all see it in the one place alongside the executor. So both the solicitor and the executor can see all the assets. There's going to be no confusion about what assets are in place or what assets haven't been named. Then,
the app is Simple Probate.
Simple Probate, right? Yeah.
And is it available on a phone or on a laptop? How do you access it?
It's desktop at the moment, so just laptop. Yeah.
Right.
So once we have all the information in, that's going to populate all the solicitor databases. It's going to integrate with Clio and Leap and all the other case management systems down the line. But the best part of it is it's going to generate all the documents that you need for probate. So it's going to generate those oath of executors, those oath of administrators for the solicitor. It's going to ensure that the jurat is correct, so it's not going to be rejected from the probate office. And it also gives real-time updates to the client. So the client's not going to be hounding the solicitor down the phone.
And when you talk about the will being rejected by the probate office, this is a common problem, isn't it? I mean, you hear from solicitors all the time. They've submitted everything, including the inland revenue affidavit, all of that kind of stuff. And then it gets sent back to them again and they need to fix it. And so what you're saying is your checklist is going to beat that. So far, can you say you have a 100% success, or is it? Is there always the danger that you're going to find something still comes back to bite you?
The probate office is a little bit of a funny fish, but the way that we're managing it is we're operating off a tell us once approach. So we're not necessarily looking at the success rate of it. We're more looking at the reduced time that's spent on admin. Solicitors are so busy, they don't need to be looking at all this admin work that anyone can do. So in my dream scenario, the executor gets the app. They input all the information once. That populates all the solicitors' databases and it generates all the documents that are needed. The solicitor prints them out, signs them, swears them, sends them, and that's it done. That's saving about 10 hours of time.
But just excuse my ignorance in relation to this. Why would the executor input all that information onto the app?
Well, an executor at the moment is already the person that's going off to find it. And the way they're sending it to their solicitor now is in tiny pieces of information. So the solicitor might say to them, go off and find all the beneficiaries' details. The executor is coming back, the beneficiaries' email addresses and their phone numbers. And then the solicitor is saying, no, you actually need their PPS numbers and you need their home addresses and you need where they live or where they were born. And so it's just, there's no real system at the moment. And every solicitor has a different way of doing things and it's really inefficient.
No, obviously I get that. But are the beneficiaries not, or is it not easily, is it not easy to identify who the beneficiaries are? I mean, we do know that there are situations where, great uncle Horatio dies in Australia and then somebody gets a phone call. Actually, I only heard that the other day, but just anecdotally, where somebody was left a bequest from a relation they didn't know very well, which obviously was a lovely phone call or letter to get. But generally, the beneficiaries are known, aren't they? I mean, they're identified in the will, or they're the next of kin. No, are they the family of the deceased, etc.
Yeah, the beneficiaries are always known most of the time. A lot of the time, that's not the case, but it just is such a difficult thing to collate all of that information. Sometimes you're looking at 5 or 6, 7 beneficiaries, and the executor is the one person that's organising all this information into the one place, and it's difficult. And it's hard to get all of that information as well.
Very often you've got somebody who's living in the UK or the US and you need to get a PPS number for them and all that kind of stuff.
Every beneficiary needs a PPS number. If they're not an Irish resident, they still have to get a PPS number. There's a whole system in place for that. There's just so many little bits of admin that you actually don't realise until you're going through the process.
So why probate? Of all the legal things under the sun, why did you pick probate as the thing for your app?
Yeah, well, there's 2 reasons. The first reason that Oisín, our technical co-founder, he underwent the probate process himself. His father died, and as an executor, he said, this is the most inefficient system I've ever come across. He is technical. He thinks there's better ways to do things through technology. He's absolutely right, there are. He wanted to develop a much better way. The reason that I thought probate was the best place to start is because it's one of the most process-driven and it has one of the largest amounts of admin.
There's a podcast. It's called The Grief Cast. I'm sure you've come across it. The comedian Carrie Lloyd, and a lot of her guests talk about what they call death men. That basically, from the time their parent or whoever dies, the amount of administration involved is huge, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So that's where you step in. I mean, almost from the time of death, you're dealing with. Your app should be saving the deathman time and allowing people to properly grieve.
Absolutely. It's also a place that you can just see everything in the one place. You can gather all your thoughts. You can actually look through the list of things and you can know with confidence everything is there and that the solicitor knows that all the assets are there.
So you said you're the CEO. Okay, so this is a business.
Yeah,
Isabella.
Absolutely,
okay.
Yeah.
And so how do you go about kind of converting what is a very good idea and obviously very expert people involved, etc. How do you convert that into a business and make money out of it? Especially dealing with solicitors who can be very kind of stuck in their ways.
Yeah, no, it was definitely something that at the start we were cautious about, and we did play around with the idea of going business to customer. So should we just bypass the solicitor completely? But it's such a big moment in people's lives that they're actually quite happy to have a solicitor and know that it's done correctly. So that's why we chose the solicitor route. In terms of actually selling to solicitors, admin is a huge headache for solicitors themselves, purely because of that administrative burden. So what I found, once we get in front of solicitors and we say, hey, this is what we're doing, they're really loving it. We have solicitors signing up every day to our wait list. We have solicitors booking demos, simpleprobate.ie. If anyone wants to book a demo, it really makes a lot of sense to solicitors. So selling to them actually hasn't been too difficult, which is amazing. So it's been really, really beneficial and really positive so far.
Okay. And in terms of, let's say, like, what do you do? Are you writing to solicitors? Are you down with the law? How have the Law Society been about this?
Yeah, they've been good so far. We've spoken to 1 or 2 people in there. We'll never be done speaking to the Law Society. They are such a big part of this and we want them to be even more involved than they already are. They've loads of ideas for probate down the line in terms of tech, which is amazing that we're all aligned on the same page, which I really love. The fact that everybody wants to automate this process is really promising. But in actual terms of getting in front of solicitors, a lot of it was outreach for myself. I just messaged solicitors, say, hey, my name's Bella, this is what we're doing. Would you like to have a chat? At the beginning, it was purely research. It was just finding out solicitors' pain points, saying, what do you not like to do when it comes to probate? And they were kind of helping us build out the product. We were just trying to address these problems. Now we know what the problems are. We have a solution to address them. So now we're getting in front of solicitors and we're saying, hey, we know what your problem is. Here's a solution. What do you think? And that's been helpful. We had an article in the Irish Times come out last week as well. And that's been our biggest piece of kind of income, I guess.
They've picked up on that, have they?
Yeah, they have.
Solicitors have. Okay. And is there an international application to this, Isabella? Yeah?
Yeah, there is. We're fortunate. Like, obviously, Ireland's a common law country. We can scale into the UK pretty easily. We're hoping to be in the UK by the end of this year with a pilot programme. After the UK, we're going to be looking at the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And
wow, ambition. Great. Good.
Absolutely.
And can I ask you, because I asked you earlier about the generating the will itself. I mean, is that, I imagine you could apply it, that you could automate that system as well. I mean, and presumably also the testator him herself or herself could actually start providing the information, the beneficiary information that you're talking about, probably more easily in many cases than the executor would be able to get that information.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be really great if people would kind of get on board and start doing that. It's definitely something to look into down the line, which is also the benefit of a product like this. Because we are so early doors, when we hear different ideas, like from yourself and other solicitors, where any good idea, we can build it in. You know, that's another part of it, that any good idea we can have, we can make that a part of the product tomorrow, which is the best thing.
And do you think you could see yourselves generating sort of conveyancing documents in the same way? Is there other types of application that are similar?
Yeah, there definitely are other applications. We're going to start with probate, and after that we do want to move into automating other areas of law, potentially family law, litigation. Some of them are harder than others, I understand that. And as we go along, they will become easier and easier. But yeah, probate is where we're starting, but not a place we're ending.
So a bird never flew on one wing. So you're going to have a second wing here. And what's the next area you want to conquer?
We're getting so much chat about conveyancing. So many people, especially clients.
You were ahead of the ball.
Yeah,
you
were. Absolutely, yeah. So many people are talking about conveyancing and can that be automated? I did a little bit of conveyancing. I think it will be a little bit difficult just because you are physically reading deeds sometimes that do date back to the 1800s. And I don't know how a computer is going to read calfskin, but it can be hard sometimes. But definitely.
With compulsory registration, obviously, that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so everything will become easier down the line. But I think,
And is there any kind of machine learning application? I mean, are you able to use ChatGPT or?
Yeah, so Oisín, his background is actually in machine learning, so we can integrate AI potentially someday soon. At the moment, it's not really something we're focused on too much. We are really focused on the admin and the automation process side of it. Automation is slightly different to machine learning, but the fact that we can have that in it if we want is great, and it's a huge benefit. And if people want that, it's something that we can put in.
Okay, Isabella. Well, look, this is. I mean, very enterprising. How many people are working with you at the moment?
3, including myself.
Just 3.
And we have a few different advisors and consultants, but the 3 of us are the ones working full time on it.
Okay. No, it sounds very cutting edge. Mark, I have to say, I mean, we've dealt with kind of AI on this show, which are taking away our jobs. It sounds like you're taking away our job as well, are you?
No, we're selling to solicitors. We're trying to help you get more.
Improving our jobs.
We're improving your jobs and helping you take on more cases. Yeah. That's the benefit of it.
Can I just ask you, just in terms of monetizing it, like what sort of price are you charging? You know, what does one have to pay to access this app?
So we're going to be going case by case pricing. So per probate case, eventually we're going to be charging €500 per case. Whether that's the solicitor paying it or if they want to charge that to the client, that's their choice. At the moment, we're charging a lot less than that because obviously any early adopters and early solicitors that want to be involved in helping us improve the product and work alongside us with the product, so that will probably be around €200 per case.
And you're looking for investment at the moment?
We are, yeah. Okay. We're looking to raise 250,000 through angel investments, VCs, and hopefully Enterprise Ireland.
Okay, and have Enterprise Ireland got on board for this?
So I'm in the New Frontiers programme at the moment, which is an Enterprise Ireland ran programme. So they've given us €15,000 so far, and that's purely just for wages to keep us all above board for the next 6 months and paying rent. But we are putting in an application for the PSSF, which is the Pre-Seed Start Fund with Enterprise Ireland. At the moment.
Sounds like it's good fun, Isabella, is it?
It is. Every day is so different.
You still have a bit of time to hop into the ring.
Yeah.
I think you need that.
Just about.
I think you need that. Okay, well listen, can we wish you the best with it? I mean, I think it's very innovative. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was another, simple conveyancing maybe, or simple other aspects of law. Okay, well, we have a question we always ask our guests before we leave.
I hope you've been teed up for this. Do you have a book or a film you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
I do. I'm going to recommend Mary Robinson's book, Everybody Matters. I only read it recently. I actually gave it as a gift to my grandmother, who was a solicitor, a probate solicitor, just yesterday for her birthday. But I love Mary Robinson. She's so inspiring. She's such a great woman in politics, woman in law. She fought for everyone, from travellers, human rights, divorce rights, everything. I loved her.
And she's now very much involved in the climate change
yes,
issue.
her new book is coming out.
Yeah.
Or it's out, sorry, I should say.
And how old is the Everybody Matters book? Is that a while?
I'm actually not too sure, to be honest. I read it, I'd say maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, but it's excellent.
Okay,
Great.
very good. And what about movies?
Movies. Do you know what? This is going to be this is probably the worst answer you've ever had. But it was the movie that got me really interested in law when I was younger. It was Legally Blonde. It was the first time.
Not at all.
It is absolutely fantastic movie.
It is, yeah.
It's a great movie.
And
I think Cuddle watches it every weekend. It's like his Casablanca, I think, you know?
On repeat. Yeah.
And why was that so good? Why did you like that so much?
Oh, it was the first time I ever had any interaction with law. It sounds really funny, but that was the first time I ever had any interaction with law. And she was this gorgeous blonde woman on screen, Reese Witherspoon, and she was just so intelligent. No one took her seriously, and she ruled the courtroom.
She wiped the floor with them.
Didn't she? Yeah. No, she was fab.
She certainly did. No, and I think actually that's the first time that's got a mention, I think, in terms of our movie recommendations. And it's such an obvious choice.
Only because you never asked me.
Well, there you go. There you go, Mark. That's it. Okay, very good. Yeah. But it's such an obvious choice. Actually, great choice, Isabella. Great choice. Well, Isabella Hughes, CEO in charge of this Simple Probate.
Simpleprobate.ie.
Will you say it again for me? Yeah.
Simple Probate.
Simple Probate. And any solicitor out there who is interested in taking you up on, you said you're doing kind of demos and all that, is it?
Yeah, they can book a demo on our website, or they can reach out to us directly, also the website.
Okay.
simpleprobate.ie.
Okay. Well, we wish you really well with it. Isabella Hughes, thank you for coming in and being a guest on the Fifth Court.
Thank you.
The Fifth Court will adjourn until next week.
So that's all from this edition of The Fifth Court. We hope you have enjoyed it. Can we say a huge thank you to Isabella Hughes, who came in and explained brilliantly this Simple Probate app. Mark, I think understood it.
I think it's going to make a difference to a lot of solicitors' friends.
No, it's really good, and best wishes to her. I think it's really enterprising, and I hope it works out for her. So before we go, I would like to say a big thank you to our producer, Conal O'Moroyne, and to Connor Eustace of the Dublin South Podcast Studios for their wonderful work in recording this show. And Mark, we're taking a little break, aren't we?
We are.
The summer season.
It's a very hot day today, and I think we've decided that these gowns are a little bit worn. The Fifth Court needs a little bit of time to recoup.
I think our listeners need a little bit of time, actually, to tell you the truth.
Exactly.
We're probably all right, but they've had enough for a while. We're taking a little break, and we hope to be back around about the first week in October. We've plenty of wonderful guests lined up, but we're just going to take a break for a while. But in the meantime, Mark, you came up with this wonderful idea, just in case people were, getting withdrawal symptoms.
I know people will be missing us.
There was just, people, restless at night, etc., this sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can hear your dulcet tones.
And yours.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Yeah, so we have a sister podcast, I think we can fairly describe it as, which is presented by our producer, Conal O'Moroyne, That Great Business Show. So on this podcast feed, we are going to be releasing a few episodes of That Great Business Show, and that includes one episode where you are interviewed about commercial mediation.
Yes.
And one episode where I am interviewed on the subject of expert evidence.
Yeah, great.
And we'll see if our listeners are any of the wiser after that.
So the tables are turned, so to speak. Yeah. We have to answer the questions. So how did we do, Mark? Answers on a postcard.
Exactly.
Anyway, folks, we wish everybody a lovely summer. We hope everybody has a nice break over the summer. And Mark, we'll see you back here around about the first week in October.
When the Fifth Court resumes session exactly in October.
So we better say cheerio anyway. So from me, Peter Leonard.
Myself, Mark Tottenham.
We'll see you relatively soon in the Fifth Court.